Hello everyone, and welcome back to Elon Musk land. For many years now, Elon Musk has had his eyes on interplanetary transportation of goods and people, and that's led him and his company, SpaceX, to develop an interplanetary vehicle, which is now known as the Starship rocket. At the moment, he is thinking of transporting people to Mars, the Moon, and even beyond that. However, he currently has one obstacle in his way, and that is the FAA. The Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, has been keeping an eye on SpaceX's progress of building the Starship, and they've recently raised some concerns, claiming that the company's operations may have a serious effect on the habitats in our ecosystem. However, this does not mean that the FAA does not want Elon Musk to achieve his dreams. The FAA is just doing its work, including air traffic management, aircraft certification, airport standards, and the protection of US assets using the launch or re-entry of commercial space vehicles. Because they have to perform their duties, the FAA has been determined to regulate SpaceX's rocket launches. They have also been determined to ensure that the operational standards of SpaceX follow their policy. However, by the look of things, this might be terrible news for SpaceX. But what people do not understand is why the FAA would want to hinder SpaceX, especially when SpaceX is just trying to benefit mankind by making commercial space travel possible. The FAA is concerned about safety regulations. More on this later. But instead, they should at least support SpaceX in achieving this goal because they will benefit from it. So, what is the progress with the FAA's monitoring of SpaceX? And why have they refused to give SpaceX the permission they need to achieve their first orbital test flight? Clearly, the FAA has forgotten the notion that history repeats itself. A couple of years ago, Nostradamus kind of predicted the future when he said that flying items, along with flying human transportation, would become normal things in everyday life in our society. However, when he actually said this, people called him crazy. We see Elon Musk trying to make this a reality. The reason behind the FAA's hindering the prosperity of SpaceX is still something that cannot quite be understood. SpaceX has made so much progress in this field, including using all sorts of engineering concepts to achieve its long-term goal. They've taken the whole world by surprise at how close they are to achieving this. However, the FAA is playing a difficult game with SpaceX, just as the FBI does with criminals. SpaceX has made so much progress that a few weeks ago they had already installed all the necessary components that would be needed to stack the outer engines on the Super Heavy and fuel it. They would have managed to stack it, but launching it immediately would have been a little bit difficult. Not only that, but even the plumbing for the Starship side was not yet complete. To launch both stages after setting it up, they would first have to fuel the Starship and then eventually pull it up and stack it on top of the Super Heavy. But all those plans have been put on hold for now, thanks to the FAA. Currently, SpaceX is working towards one achievement: launching a fully stacked version of Starship and the Super Heavy combo beyond the Earth's atmosphere and into space. Theoretically speaking, SpaceX is prepared for this stage. However, the success of this entirely depends on the FAA's recent call for public views on issuing the license. This means that the regulatory permission might take longer than expected, and it might even take more than a month for it to go through. The company has plans to launch many Starship programs in the near future. However, for all of these to go through, SpaceX needs to be granted a permit or a vehicle operator license by the FAA. Without this, they would not be able to launch any of the Starships. Right now, SpaceX is planning on executing the first ever orbital test flight of the Starship vehicles from Starbase. However, the FAA has put this on hold, and it will not be possible to go on with the launch until the FAA completes its study. Before the FAA could issue a SpaceX permit, they decided to create a Programmatic Environmental Assessment, or PEA. This would then allow them to examine the possible effects that the launch activities, which would take place at the Starbase in Boca Chica, would have on the environment. The government has not been given an expected completion date by which they would get back to SpaceX for the hearing. However, it is said to be soon. A few weeks ago, the FAA posted a draft evaluation of the Starbase assessment and made it available to the public. They then asked the public to comment on it, and during this period, they claimed to have received more than 17,000 written comments on the document. However, this wasn't the first time they involved the public on this. In October 2021, the FAA also went ahead and hosted several public hearings on the assessment, two in fact. and this was done through Zoom. During these 2 Zoom sessions, the FAA also claims that they got about 121 vocal opinions. When these comments were analyzed, it was found that they were mostly from SpaceX supporters. The FAA also received a lot of opinions from both the supporters and those who are against SpaceX, and the 2 sides were pretty loud. The FAA will have to consider all of these and then address them with SpaceX before making a decision. Under the pressure of giving a response, the FAA may have considered answering these concerns by issuing a temporary license to SpaceX for the purpose of testing only. This would even help them reconsider their existing launch licenses. The hearings, which were almost 4 hours long, received incredible support from SpaceX's plans to expand the Starbase facility, and great opposition against SpaceX. More than 50 people had the chance to air out their views during the Zoom conference. When an informal count was done, it was found that about 39 comments supported the proposal and 18 comments opposed it. The responses, which were mostly in support of SpaceX, were more likely to come from people outside the state, mainly those who were generally pleased with the company's goal of giving humans a chance to live in space. Also, there were many local supporters, and that made it very clear that there were many people following up on SpaceX and supporting its mission. These people will do whatever it takes to ensure that SpaceX succeeds in whatever space exploration mission they have, as long as it benefits humanity. When later investigations were carried out, it was found that the 18 opposition members who were against the proposal lived near Brownsville, Texas, and it would be no surprise if they also claimed a variety of environmental issues, such as the destruction of wildlife habitats and the impacts on the South Texas population, such as industrialization. These oppositions described how SpaceX plants in Boca Chica, Florida, came up so fast near Cape Canaveral, causing environmental damage in the area. However, one of the supporters gave an example of a positive effect of the launch sites. Rohan Joseph, who identified himself as an aerospace engineer, a lifelong environmentalist, and a birder, gave the example of the protection of many sea turtles at the launch sites in India. In addition, there have not been any reports of endangerment of aquatic life from one of SpaceX's Starlink companies, the Starlink satellite company based in India. Most supporters emphasized how the initiative could actually inspire a new generation of Texans. Gail Afar, who is a certified nurse in Texas and also works with young schoolchildren, stated that their eyes light up whenever SpaceX's topics were raised. This makes it seem like anyone against SpaceX either hates Elon Musk and SpaceX, or they're just against humans traveling to space. They're clearly not against the proposed environmental pollution and disaster. The FAA has also had a decision to make on whether or not they will grant and license an experimental orbital launch. The first SpaceX orbital flight, planned for the Super Heavy, was for the rocket to separate from the Starship about 2 minutes after launch from Boca Chica, making a splash about 20 miles offshore in the Gulf of Mexico. Among those concerned about the Starship program were the Texas Parks and Wildlife Development. In a letter sent to the FAA in November, Chief Operating Officer Clayton Wolf claimed that the agency had issues with the draft PEA. He claimed that the analysis was insufficient in certain areas in describing and evaluating all potential impacts of SpaceX's proposed activities. In addition, the draft PEA gives findings but no evidence from investigations, research projects, or best available science to support these conclusions. This letter admits that the FAA has already assessed that the Starship program is likely to impact 10 federally protected species. It also contains 16 pages of detailed comments and recommendations for reducing these risks. In the same way, the Nature Conservancy of Texas also expressed concerns to the FAA about SpaceX's current and future activities at Boca Chica. It even questioned whether a PEA is really the right way to address the full extent of direct and indirect effects of Boca Chica's unique and highly productive natural environments. Instead of the FAA being against SpaceX's plans, they should instead support them now and even in the near future. The company is set to launch a commercial spaceflight formally, and hundreds of Starships will be launched to the moon regularly. And so, as a government body, the FAA really should find a way in which they can assist SpaceX and Elon Musk's mission towards serving humanity. So, do you think that the FAA will grant SpaceX a permit to carry out its launches? Do you think that SpaceX will successfully launch the fully stacked Starship given the permit? Well, that's about it for this video. Thank you for watching, and while you're here, click on one of these 2 videos on your screen. See you there!